Welcome to QCC's Face the Region. Face the Region is produced by Quinsigamond Community College to assist our region in attaining educational, economic, and personal prosperity. Now, here's your host, WCRN's Hank Stoltz.
Good afternoon, I'm Hank Stoltz, and this is QCC's Face the Region on News and Talk Radio, AM 830 WCRN, and we're very pleased to be spending some time with James Heffernan today, professor here at QCC, also coordinator of electronics, engineering, technology. James, thanks so much for coming by.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
You know what, I want to get a little bit, obviously, into what the coordinator of electronics and engineering and technology does, but first, let's talk about you a little bit, because this is, as people know, maybe once every couple of months or so, we like to have somebody from the faculty come in and really just talk about themselves, give you a little bit of a behind the scenes and really get to know some of the professors who are here, particularly somebody like Professor Heffernan, where you've been with us in the past. It's great now to get a little bit more about your background. So tell us about that. How did you get interested, and how did you finally wend your way here to QCC?
Well, I grew up in Worcester. I went to Forest Grove Junior High and Doherty High School. Went to college in Worcester, Assumption College, and also WPI. I got a degree from both schools. My first job out of school was with Micronetworks, which is, I think, now Unitrode or Texas Instruments. I only worked for 6 months for them, and I went over to Sprague Electric, which is now Allegro, for another 4.5 years. And I ended up getting into education. Actually, the first teaching job I had was in Ghana, West Africa. My wife and I had this plan. We wanted to travel and live someplace else.
Now, I mean, was that like a Peace Corps?
Well, we actually, the original plan was to do the Peace Corps, and my wife got pregnant, so they don't take you with kids. So we arranged our own.
And you went anyway?
Yeah, we went anyway.
Wow.
And we had a good, connection with the this doctor that was the head of the local hospital, and his wife, who was actually from Europe, Yugoslavia, and she had babies there and everything. And so they kind of, it worked out fine. And, it wasn't like all roses, but it was, we just decided, now's the time to do it. So we went ahead, and our daughter was actually born. We brought our son there when he was a year and a half old, and our daughter was born while we were there. So that's a whole story in itself. Wow. I taught at a high school. It was a technical high school. I taught electrical principles. And then when I got back, I got a job at Worcester Technical Institute. It used to be called Whitty.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
And I taught there for 8 years. And around that time, the city of Worcester was kind of looking at consolidating and not so much. Well, they were no longer wanting to be in the business of higher ed or post-secondary, so they were looking for a way to kind of hand those programs off. And the obvious relationship was Quinsigamond Community College. So that was back in 1999. They transferred many of the technical programs from Worcester Technical Institute to Quinsig. And essentially, I had built one of those programs, or most of it, and at the time it was called Electromechanical Technology. And so I kind of came along with the program.
And we're able to bring it right here to Quinsigamond Community College.
Yep.
Let me go back to Ghana for a moment. Now, Now, is your daughter a citizen of Ghana?
No, that's not exactly. It's not that simple. But she does have a birth certificate with a Ghanaian name.
Just wanted to make sure that when she runs for president, she doesn't run into any trouble, later on down the line.
Yeah.
How would you say that experience kind of has helped you with students here, with what you did at Whitty, with bringing those programs here to Quinsigamond Community College, and the way that you interact with students today? I mean, does some of what you did there inform what happens today?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, just having lived someplace in a third world country for a while gives you a different perspective of the world, and what where the world is not as they actually have a lot of technology now. I haven't been to Ghana for a while, but it's not that they're so much behind. In some ways, the third world countries have leapfrogged ahead in communications.
Well, right. So here we are in the West, and we really have these preconceived notions. So that you say Ghana, and somebody goes, "Oh my goodness," and somebody honestly thinks of, I don't know, grass huts or no running water or whatever. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why we are that way, but we do seem. But as you're pointing out, obviously modern countries
Yeah.
with, in some cases, cutting-edge technology.
Yep. I mean, there are areas where there are grass huts and no running water, but we were in a town with, electricity, running water. We really had a great time. The people are just so welcoming and friendly, and that I've had a lot of African students from Ghana and other areas here, and it's always a nice connection. I let them know that I lived there for a year, and they're very often surprised by that. But
it is a huge part of the Worcester population,
sure,
of the immigrant population here.
Right. Even since we came back in 1991. And maybe a few years later, I noticed this store on Belmont Street, Kumasi Market, and I was like, wow, that's unusual. And bit by bit, I noticed more and more Ghanaian businesses and people, and of course, students showing up when I was at both at Worcester Technical Institute and here at Quinsig. A lot of African students.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. All right, so you went to WPI. Obviously, had you always planned to, going to Ghana notwithstanding, had you always planned to stay in the area?
Not exactly, but I had made some. I'm also a musician on the side, and I had a lot of kind of relationships or commitments locally, and so I guess maybe my first priority was to find something local, and it wasn't a problem. So I didn't have to kind of uproot and leave all the things I was doing outside of work. I also had a lot of family in the area, so. I don't know if I had really much of a grand plan. I
guess part of the reason that I bring that up is because it does seem when we talk with, each week with people here at Quinsigamond Community College, one of the things that is really one of the goals is that give people a firm foundation so that young people in particular can stay, or people who are coming back and and are retraining, entering new fields, that they can stay right here in central Massachusetts.
Right. That's the goal of the community college, and our students are primarily students that want to stay in the area. So that's certainly a common thread.
All right. What else? You just talked about the fact that you're a musician as well. What else do we need to know about James Heffernan?
I don't know. I ride a bicycle to work.
I like that part.
Yeah.
This is the hardest thing of all, isn't it? So I'd like you to tell us about why you're so wonderful. Blow your own horn for about 7 or 8 minutes, would you?
Right. Yeah.
It's always tough. Classes that you're teaching right now at QCC?
Right. So, this semester I'm teaching a class in mechatronic systems, a class in embedded microcontrollers, and a class in industrial robotics. And we've got some new curriculum, new equipment in all those courses that we're using, really getting the students exposed to some relevant and cutting-edge technologies.
Well, let's pick it up right there, straight ahead on QCC's Face the Region, as we're talking and really getting to know a little behind the scenes with Professor James Heffernan here at QCC. He's also the coordinator of electronics, engineering, and technology. We'll get into that in a moment as well, but we'll pick it up with some of the classes that he's teaching. Hopefully you wrote those names down. I didn't. I'm going to have to ask him again in just a second here on News and Talk Radio, AM 830 WCRN. QCC's Face the Region continues now on News and Talk Radio, AM 830 WCRN. And we're speaking with Professor James Heffernan. He's the coordinator of electronics, engineering, technology. And Professor Heffernan, you were just telling me a second ago, and it was very nice of you to do it when no one could hear. But this is an important point. So it's the coordinator of electronics, engineering, technology. So when I was putting that "and" in there, and engineering and technology, this is something totally separate and totally different. And pick up and tell me a little bit about that then.
Right.
So electronics, engineering, technology.
Yeah, so there's an important distinction to understand at colleges. There are engineering programs, and then there are engineering technology programs. Engineering technology implies it's application-oriented, more hands-on, less theoretical, tend to be algebra-based instead of calculus-based. So at Quinsig, we have an excellent engineering program. It's primarily to get students to transfer to WPI, MIT, all these great engineering schools. The engineering technology programs, like the one I coordinate, are more career-focused, and we get the students. We're not the level of math is basically algebra-based. It's focused on getting their hands on real equipment, learning skills in troubleshooting, assembling, testing, and just more in documenting systems. It's we're learning theory and principles, but we're always applying things. It's kind of a different.
So now, I mean, so is that more associated with the associate's degree or some sort of a certificate?
It's both. Well,
Both, okay.
it's an associate degree program. But really the primary objective is to get students skills that they can go out and market. So we go out and actually we have close relationships with local companies, and we look at job descriptions of kinds of things that they need to have people that can really, function effectively. And the goal is to get them ready to be technicians. It's actually there's one of the Germans have a very strong technical education system. It's one of the things that in the United States, or at least in the Northeast, there tends to be less focus on technical education. Germans actually have a parallel system where if you're studying engineering, you also get hands-on skills along with it. They even have a word, I'm going to butcher this German, but it's Handlungskompetenz, and it literally means hands-on competency. And that's what the focus of our programs are. There's a great article, it was from about a year ago, from the PBS NewsHour called How to Educate Americans for Jobs, Ask the Germans, Employers Urge. And there are other articles about this, but it's a real problem with employers for technical companies. They're looking for students that can come in and really have that hands-on competency, be able to not be afraid of equipment, be able to take a diagram like what you see here. And what you're seeing in back of me, I know the radio audience can't see me,
but let's describe that a little bit, because
Sure.
as you just said, so you have in front of you a diagram that quite frankly looks like Greek to me. But I mean, obviously, what's going to happen is somebody's going to come here to QCC, they would take this course, and then they would be able to easily read that. And this is, you're making, an important point here, because this is what an employer right here, right now is looking for. And we talk about the pipeline to different schools and different programs quite often here. This is important as well. Come to QCC, 2-year associate's degree, and it's a pipeline to many of the industrial jobs that are right here in the area.
That's right.
Yeah, and now describe a little bit, because I am watching this behind me, and this is this from one of your classes?
Yeah, these are close-ups of a piece of equipment that we use in a couple of our classes. The class that I mentioned that's called Mechatronic Systems. So this is a real manufacturing system that you're seeing. It takes these plastic boxes, fills them with various amounts of material, puts a cap on them, and they go around a conveyor just like a real manufacturing. It's fully automated. And so what I do in this class, we study it. We learn how the electrical principles and how pneumatics is applied here. We talk about the diagrams and get the students to the point where they can troubleshoot problems. So I go in fact, just yesterday we did this. I go in and I introduce troubles, and they have to follow the schematics and diagrams and do a logical process of solving the problems. And so they build a lot of confidence. They're not just learning theoretically electrical principles or pneumatics. They're applying it to real systems.
And they're absolutely able to to see that. So I mean, so very hands-on. Tell me again about the classes that you're teaching right now.
Right. So Mechatronic Systems was one. Another one's called Embedded Microcontrollers. A microcontroller it's like a little computer on a chip that you can program to do almost anything. You just wire it up to the various outputs and inputs. And so the students are working on various projects. They use these little autonomous robots. They can program those, or little temperature control systems, or just about anything. And the other course is industrial robotics, where we have some actual industrial robots that we got recently. And they're learning how to program them to do motion sequences.
Boy, this really is cutting edge then, right here at QCC. And this, I guess, one of your challenges must be that this technology changes so rapidly and changes all the time.
It does, that's true. But there are some basic things. For example, this microcontrollers course, the technology itself is actually not very expensive, and it's easy to keep on top of it. Because every new generation, every so often they upgrade the software or whatever, and it's not radically different. So it's not as much of a leap keeping on top of it, but that is part of the challenge that, yeah, we do have to upgrade every so often. And
boy, this is fantastic. All right, coming up, we want to tell you a little bit more about the Quest Center that has opened up as well. When we talk about cutting edge, when we talk about the opportunity that you have at QCC and the real hands-on, the Quest Center is, the fact that this is coming online now is such a huge part of it. We're speaking with Professor James Heffernan. He is also the coordinator of electronics engineering technology here at QCC. Much more to come on News and Talk Radio, AM 830 WCRN. I'm Hank Stoltz. Thank you so much for joining us today on QCC's Face the Region on News and Talk Radio, AM 830 WCRN. This is another in a series that we're calling the Faculty Spotlight. And every couple of months, we just want to bring you a member of the faculty, usually somebody that we have spoken with in the past, and give you a little bit more in-depth of a one-on-one conversation with them. Many times, of course, our conversations are roundtable conversations with several guests. Our guest today is Professor James Heffernan. He's the coordinator of electronics engineering technology here at QCC. And one of the things, just going back to how we've spoken with you in the past, and you've been here, we've spoken to you because of your role in the Quest Center and the fact that, you've given some of these tours and, gotten people in there. Mm-hmm. This is just, and we've spent a lot of time on it, I suppose, over the last couple of years here on Face the Region. But it is just such an important piece right now of Quinsigamond Community College. It just represents so many things. It represents the growth. It represents the way that students are cutting edge. I mean, the Quest Center really rivals anything they will find anywhere, no matter where they go to school.
Absolutely. And QUEST is an acronym. It stands for Quinsigamond Engineering, Science, and Technology. So we're involved in primarily the technology part, but also the engineering technology. It's been a real leap, quantum leap from where we were. We had 2 labs in 2 different buildings. Now those have been joined together into a common space, or 2 different labs, but they're right adjacent to each other. We've been trying to set up this project-based learning environment, and as we're also developing curriculum more and more along those lines. So students are involved in real projects. And so what we have in the new labs is access for students to cutting-edge tools and technology so they can build things and make things, troubleshoot them, get things working. Again, it goes along with this whole hands-on focus that we're trying to build into the program, and so that they're learning principles, but always applying them and getting that reinforcement from a real environment. It's been great. We also have the Fab Lab is a big component of the new building. We're not directly involved with it yet, but there's tremendous potential for collaboration with the manufacturing students, using the 3D printers and the laser cutters and things to make components that we can use in our automated systems.
So, Professor, how many people are in there, right now? Because it seems to me, as we've had these conversations, that I guess there was kind of what I would call a soft opening. I mean, a few people were in there, and now every time that I talk to somebody, like a month apart, it seems as if obviously more and more students are being able to come in and access the Quest Center.
Yeah, well, we got in as soon as we could. We had to, because we were pretty much pushed out of our old labs, and we've been in since about we got it within like 2 weeks into the term. We were in, all of our students. Now we've got some engineering classes running upstairs. I don't know exactly all the other things going on the other floors. Right. The Fab Lab is ramping up. There's a manufacturing class that's being run in there. So yeah, little by little, more and more students are getting in there and using it.
I would, when students first see it, and I mean like really first see it, like new students who maybe are brand new to QCC, or even. Have you started to see some high school students, I would think, now who are thinking about what's going to be coming up in September? We're probably going to start to see them begin to come through. Yeah. What's their reaction?
It's a wow factor, no question. I mean, it really feels like you're in a cutting-edge, modern facility that it gives you that confidence. And, our job is to make it so that we're actually delivering what it looks like. It's not just cosmetic. It's really, truly, a deep and rich curriculum for these students. And we had an open house recently. We had some people coming through, some high school students, and you can tell as soon as they walk into the lab, they know we mean business, and it's a great career option.
Now, and as you said, a wow factor for the students who are at this open house. How about some of the 45 businesses that you've pinpointed that you're really a pipeline to, or even WPI that we've talked about? Yeah. Have they had a chance to come in and take a look at the Quest Center?
Only a couple of people so far. I mean, it's just been it hasn't been open long. But again, that's one of the purposes of the building was it was built for marketing and promoting these programs, and so we anticipate that that more and more businesses will come in and really be struck by the quality that we're providing.
Quality is the key, and I think that it's one of the keys when we talk about Quinsigamond Community College as well. Boy, I mean, the last 10 years or so, it's amazing to me from the outside looking in, but having done this show, the amount of growth that there has been. And I don't know if this is all community colleges in Massachusetts, but my guess would be that there is something special happening here for some reason at Quinsigamond Community College, that there seems to be a real vision that is being carried out. And I don't know if it's because, we're lucky enough to sort of be in this hub of where there's biotech, and so there's these kind of jobs. But for Quinsigamond Community College to have had this type of growth in the economy that we have had, I mean, you watch the nightly news, you look at the presidential election, and what's happening here seems to be bucking some trends.
I'd like to think so, yeah. And again, we're just focused on what we need to do and focused on our own objectives of continuous improvement. And hopefully that'll all pay off.
Professor Heffernan, what do you think with the future? I mean, now you got the Quest Lab open up. You're looking over the next couple of terms. You're looking maybe even out over the next 5 years or so. What do you see?
I'm hoping to see more and more students come and choose this path. I think it's an underserved population that really is looking for hands-on technical education, and there's an underserved job market out there as well that we're serving. That the engineering schools, they're great, but they're not serving that particular middle-skilled job market. So that's our mission, really, is to get students to come in and get out of here with good skills and go off to great careers.
Fantastic. Professor James Heffernan, thanks for coming in for our faculty spotlight.
You're welcome.
Boy, we learned quite a bit. And Professor Heffernan here at QCC, along with the classes that he, of course, is doing, is also coordinator of electronics engineering technology. And come on by sometime and check out the Quest Center. It really is remarkable.
Sure.
You've been listening to Face the Region on News and Talk Radio, AM 830 WCRN.
This has been Quinsigamond Community College's Face the Region with your host, Hank Stoltz. Join us again next weekend on AM 830 WCRN.